Thank you. One of them was you and the other one. And the other.
Guess who, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was either you or the person like being careful, obviously.
That makes sense. That's a tough call.
Well, we're as you saw. Eagle is going to be swords. Yes.
All right.
See you in a Kage.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He's very interesting.
Lane, right? From whichever.
He looks like a mad scientist.
Hello, everyone!
Hello!
So, I believe, Atla, you have something that you want to say, and you should really stay in the line. Everybody, gather around now. Let's plug up Kage. Nobody wants to see him. Yeah, so here we go. All right, microphone is yours.
Thank you. As you might have noticed, our fursuit preliminaries had the donation run game again, and the fursuiters ran around for about 3 hours collecting for charity. And yeah, it's a bit sad to say that we did not break last year's record. Yeah, but at least we did rather well. Sorry, can you hold this for a second? Of course, pretend it's a paper notebook. So the final amount was €1,181.34. Ran out and donated, sorry, not donated, collected for charity. And of course for all the people who donated. There were also $2 US, 1 2-point coin, several Swiss coins, and 2 spoons. Officially?
Oh.
Here you go. More than half of it is small change.
I think the charity people want to say some words of thanks.
The lady or the boy that put the spoons in it, can we have the nice knives and the forks as well? We have to do it briefly because the doctor have to talk about people that put spoons in the bags. You know, you have to explain it. It's an extra course, but it would be rude to do it too short. It was Pinky yesterday. Pinky, it's not the calendar. The calendar has only 12 months, not 13. Yeah, keep it decent.
What the hell?
We don't want to do it too short, but neither do it too long because you are buying so much things at our stand. It's unbelievable. However, there's 18% of you are girls. I don't know, I can't see what they do in these fur costumes. But that means 45 girls are over here. We still have these t-shirts in small. Too many, ladies. The green ones. So ladies, feel free to come over. I'm a former banker, so I misuse this opportunity to promote our t-shirts. But it's amazing. It's the first time for us, and the passion that you have for these costumes, to create them, not stitching them, but building them. You know, the passion for our project, the charity, how you treat each other, the dignity, the love, all together. It's for us. It feels like a warm den for little puppies. We feel like puppies. Begging for food, of course, you know, money, of course, but it's unbelievable. And we are sending text messages to the project, and they have, what do you call it, chicken skin, you know. It's amazing. They can hardly believe what we are doing, but for me, it's a warm bath of feeling home. So that's a compliment to all of you. We feel that we are at home. Thank you. Very rude, very rude.
invited to join as an audience for the actual Fursuit game show tomorrow. And with this, I'm handing over the microphone to Uncle Kage with... Oh, no, not yet.
One final thing I want to say is the charity calendars sold out in 3 hours and 9 minutes. They raised, get this, 2,180 If you still want to get one, there is one left to get. It is signed by all the people in the calendar, and it is in the live auction, also hosted by Kage. Yeah. And also, I will say that by magical circumstances, we now suddenly have 7 concert tickets. They'll be on sale tomorrow in the lottery booth. There's just those 7. You gotta hurry. Yes, thank you.
To our dearest Uncle Kage, thank you for enduring us over here, and always remember, there is no spoon.
Actually, sir, there's 2 of them. I actually know where those spoons came from, as well as the $2 US. There's a story behind that. Maybe I'll tell you if I get enough of this. Boy, look at all those people. Oh, listen to that beautiful sound. Could that possibly be the dulcet tones of Mr. Fox Amore joining me on this stage?
Yeah.
I believe it is. Mr. Amore joined, what was it, 3-4 years ago? Kind of as a lark. Actually, I think we were both falling down, throwing up on ourselves drunk. And I think we said, let's have you play piano while I'm telling stories to people. And it worked. Somehow it worked. So I enjoy having this man up here because he provides the musical accompaniment. Because if my stories start to like suck or something, you won't notice it because you're hypnotized by the magnificent tones that come from the talented fingers, and his fingers are talented. Take it from me, of Mr. Foxmore. You can applaud now. I cannot see anybody out there. All I can see is this sea of light, which is fine. I see ears. Yeah, I can see the ears too.
Yeah.
Let us hear some sort of sound. Please not a howl. Don't do that. If anybody has never seen either myself or Mr. Amore perform before, is anybody out there who's this is your first time? There's a few first-timers out there. In case you're not sure why you're here, some friend said, "Oh, you have to go to this thing." Basically,
Yeah.
thank you. I'm Uncle Kage, I don't know why, but I'm from America, as if you couldn't tell, and Mr. Amore is from Scotland, as if you couldn't tell. You picked up the cue, I love it. Basically what happens is, they call me, the French call me a raconteur, which is stupid because I'm not a raccoon. But what I do is I get up here and I basically make noise with my face, and I put the liquid contents of this glass into that same face, and I continue doing that until I throw up on myself and fall down these stairs, and Mr. Amore plays music. So I hope you're all clear on what's going to happen. There will be a test at the end. By the way, for those of you who don't know, I am a man of science. I'm a professional scientist. That's why I wear this get-up here. This is not just a costume. I wear this to work every single day. And that is Mr. Amore's work uniform. He is an undertaker.
Yeah.
I'm also the chairman. I share a common trait with Cheetah, who you all know, Cheetah, who runs this amazing convention as chairman. I share a common trait with him, and that is high blood pressure. I am the chairman of a convention in the United States called Anthrocon. It's a little bigger than this one.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, as far as I know, my fursuit parade is bigger than this one. Sorry, no, we're not here to compare sizes. That's later. So basically, I shall make noise with my face, Mr. Moore will make noise with the piano there. And I will tell you stories of things that have happened to me, people I have met, and drinks that I have consumed. And since I mentioned that, we're kind of going to start with that. The thing is, if I repeat a story I told last year, I deeply apologize and I beg the indulgence of the audience because I don't actually remember the stories I told last year. It's all a blur because I was having so much fun here at Eurofurence. But I am indeed the chairman of Anthrocon, and we have several hotels in the city of Pittsburgh, as the Germans say, in Pennsylvania, in the United States. And as the chairman, my job is to rent a big truck and ship all of the stuff up from my home state of North Carolina, which is where the stupid people are, up to Pennsylvania, which is where the furries are. Okay, there's some Americans out there, they got that, you can tell. It is a long trip, it takes about 9 hours, and usually when I get there, I am exhausted, and all I want to do is go to the bar. Our flagship hotel, within the past couple of years, had a change. You know, the winds of change blew across the hotel. There was a magnificent 5-star restaurant known as the Original Fish Market Restaurant. They had a wine list that was 18 pages long. And I could simply go down the wine list, and when I arrived, all the staff knew, I would say, I would like any of these 30, just bring one of them. Let's see, surprise. The Original Fish Market Restaurant is no longer there. This 5-star Michelin-rated restaurant has been replaced with a restaurant called Bill's Burgers. It's a nice restaurant, but Bill's Burgers has a wine paragraph. And I arrived, this was their first year, they had just opened. And I went in there with my logistics crew. I call them the stuff crew because they move the stuff, you see. And I sat down, I was looking at the wine paragraph, and I was disappointed. However, the saving grace was the first wine on the list. Everyone knows who knows me that my absolute favorite wine in the world comes from the magnificent country of Germany we're in right now, specifically the Mosel Valley. Riesling aus Moselland is the greatest in the world, and that's what I will always go for. And I looked, and they had a magnificent Riesling, specifically a Cabernet. For those of you who are not wine-ophiles, a Cabernet wine means wine that is so good you keep it in a cabinet so nobody else can get to it, specifically your mother. Is she not there? And I saw that on there. It said Riesling Cabernet Mosel. And I said, how lovely. And the waiter came over, and all the guys saw that I was happy. After 9 hours, I get my Moselland Riesling. And I said, hello, I would like this one here, the Riesling from Germany. Give me this one right here. And he said, oh, we're out of that. We won't have any till next week. Everyone at the table just reached up and grabbed the silverware and dragged it back away from me. And I looked up at the man and said, do you know who I am? And he said, why, did you forget? I'll have to give him that one. So, okay, I'm a comic, I'm a funny man. So the next day, when we had the pre-convention meeting at the hotel, now my pre-convention meeting is not just the hotel. It's 8 hotels, a convention center, the city of Pittsburgh, the mayor's office, the tourism bureau. It's a very big meeting. And we sat down at a huge table, and I sat down at the front, and I wanted to make a joke. And I sat down and I said, ladies and gentlemen, I will have you know that when I arrived last night, there was no Riesling in the bar. And everyone at the table said, They turned and looked at the beverage manager of the hotel who did this. That was last year. That was 2015. This year was 2016. Funny how that works. When I went to the hotel, I met up with some of my logistics crew and they were kind of smiling and giggling. And I said, okay, what's so funny? And they said, we got here before you did. You should have seen the manager of the restaurant. He came up to us and he said, is Dr. Conway here? And they said, no, he's not here yet. The man said, could you tell him we have his wine? It's good to be me sometimes. As I said, however, it is my job to rent a truck and to, lorry, as the British people say, yes, and to put all the stuff into it. Now, when you rent a truck, you go to a truck rental place or a lorry rental place, and you say, give me a truck, and you take off. It's supposed to be easy. I had done this before. I went to the same rental place, and I called them and said, I want a panel truck for cargo. And they said, sure, and I arrived on the given day. This was also 2015. I arrived, and I went inside and said, I am here for the Anthrocon cargo truck. And they said, it's right outside, sir. I said, thank you, and I went outside. Excuse me, I don't see it. Where is it out there? They said, it's right out in the parking lot, sir. You can't miss it. Okay. Miss, excuse me, I don't mean to seem dim, but I don't see it out there. She said, it's the second one in, sir. It's the second one. That's yours. I said, okay. Hello, miss, I actually wanted a real truck, not a toy. I really got to move some stuff. And she said, that's all we have, sir. If you don't want that, you're going to have to get a full-size truck, which will cost you double. I didn't want to pay that. So I said, all right, I'll take the Tonka toy here. So I went out, I got the truck, and I put it in my pocket. I went back inside, and I gave the lady my credit card. And I went outside, and I kind of squeezed myself into the truck. And I was thinking, I have a lot of equipment. Is it going to fit in this? I don't think so. I started to make alternative plans. The equipment that's not packed solidly, I'll put in this. Maybe the equipment that's in solid boxes I can ship down there. Because I don't have time to make alternative plans. This is the day before the convention. And I was driving along, and I stopped at a red light. We do that in my country when the lights are red. I know some of you are Eastern European, but anyway. And some of you are Italian. Anyway. I'm sorry. I can say that. Because I'm from Philadelphia. There's more Italians in Philadelphia than there are in Rome, believe me. And I stopped at the red light, and I was looking in the rear view mirror. And the mirror, in the inside, the mirror had a thing that said, objects in a mirror are closer than they appear. And I said, they couldn't possibly be, because I'm looking at the rear doors. And while I was talking, I reached back, and my fingers touched the back doors of the truck. No, this is not going to work. So I got on my phone, and I called, and I said, look, lady, this truck is not going to work. I'm going to bring it back. I don't care what you have to give me. I don't care what I have to pay. I'm bringing the truck back right now. Give me whatever is available. He's good, isn't he? We didn't rehearse this, by the way, this is all off the cuff. So I drove back in. It was a cloudy day. And when I drove in, a small break appeared in the clouds, and a singular shaft of golden light shone down on this massive 4-meter-long Dodge cargo van that had not been there before. And I ran inside and I said, "Oh, hey, the Dodge van out there, is that promised to anyone?" And she said, "No, sir, it isn't." "Well, give it to me!" She said, "I can't." Why? It's not clean. I will lick the motherfucker clean! So I did. And the convention happened. It's amazing. A lot of folk out there, you may think the convention just happens. You have no idea what goes on behind the scenes. How much work, how much blood, sweat, tears, and more blood goes into making one of these conventions work. So I will ask you a personal favor. When you leave here tonight and you're out there having fun, when you see somebody with the staff lanyards, the red and orange, and the security lanyards, please thank them, because they are suffering terribly so that you can have a good time. There's your guilt trip for the evening. I'm gonna grab myself some of this. A couple of weeks ago, I was at a convention in England, which is not where he's from. Don't make that mistake. He will hit you. I made it once. Once. Yes, that's not a dueling scar. Anyway, that was from a broken Guinness bottle. A year ago, I was invited to be a guest at, of all things, an anime convention.
Yay.
You all understand anime, that's the Japanese animation fandom. That's not at all furry. They said, "Would you come to our convention?" And I said, "Really? You want me to go there as a guest?" They said, "Yes, we want you to be a guest because we've never had a furry guest. We want you to be our furry guest." I said, "Okay, sure." Now, I'm in the business. I understand how these things work. You have the guests, and then you have, the guests. We call it the A-list and the B-list. I knew that in anime fandom, I'm not an A-list guest because they had these luminary voice actors, people who are, we do the, what's this, Naruto and all, we do the voices for that. And then we have this fat old yank who drinks.
Works every time.
Shut up. It's like a reflex, you can't stop. So, I went to their webpage, and this was really driven home, because when you went to the webpage, on the front page it said, "Amazing voice actor number 1 and amazing voice actor number 2, our guests," and that's all it said. If you went to the guest page, it was amazing voice actor number 1, amazing voice actor number 2, and then if you scroll down to the bottom, and some drunken old yank who drinks under the fold. But that's okay. That's all right. I understand. I'm gonna fight it. My forehead itches. Oh boy. Stop it. Anyway. When I arrived, they told me it was going to be in Sunderland, in England.
Yeah.
And I looked up Sunderland. It's on the east coast of England, and it's all the way up north. It's almost Scotland. As a matter of fact, it would have been Scotland, but there's some history going on there. And it's on the beach. I said, "Oh boy, I get to go to a convention on the beach in June." So I packed my suntan oil and my beach umbrella and my flip-flops and my Speedo. I arrived, and I was picked up by one of their senior staff members. And I immediately felt sympathy for the boy, because I saw the look in his eyes. This one, he got up from the chair and he looked like this. Like the Walking Dead. When he looked at me, he didn't look at me, he was looking through me at some mystic, eldritch horror that lurked in the shadows that only he could see. This boy had seen a lot, and immediately I felt kinship with him. And he took my bags, and as we were walking away, he said a strange thing. He said, "You're in luck. One of the guests has canceled, so you're not going to have to sleep with the staff." I said, "Excuse me?" And he got a look on his face. You've probably seen the look. The look on his face said, "Oh my God, did I say that out loud?" And he said, "Oh, just not too bad. We're going to take you to the hotel now. That's what we'll do." Okay. So he drove me to the hotel, and he gave me a lovely, nice hotel room, which apparently was destined for one of the great guests. But since he canceled, they just had me. So I got the room. But remember, I understand, I'm not their A-list. So he left, and I unpacked my beach towel and my umbrella and my flip-flops and my Speedo, and I ran outside and I went onto the beach and I said, "Wow, beaches in England are nothing like California. We don't have as many icebergs. And I've never seen a Viking longboat in California." So I kind of went back inside before I got frostbite, and I left the Speedo on because I kind of like that, but I put my regular clothes on, and I went to the con site. As Eurofurence used to do, you had like the hotel here, the con site, you had to go a little distance to get to. So I walked to the con site, and I'm looking around, and I found my friend who picked me up, and I said, "Okay, what do you need me to do?" And he looked at me and he said, "Everything." I don't follow. What do you mean? He said, "We had one guest here for Friday, Saturday." It was Friday. "And we had the second guest. He's coming tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday. With the other guest canceled, you're all we have." And I said, "Oh, how sweet that I'm here to help you in your moment of desperation. But what do you need me to do?" He said, "Whatever you do." I said, "I got you covered." I said, "Make with the glass." And he did. They put me up on a big stage like this, and they had this huge room this size, and they were like, the 8 furries at the convention were sitting in the front row right here. So I just started doing what I do. I started putting this in my face and started having noise come out. Within an hour, the room was full. I think I did something right. I had a good time, and the convention folks seemed to like me. The next day, Saturday, dawned bright and clear, and I got up and I went to the con site, and the exact same staff member met me with a look on his face like this. I said, "Uh-oh. What happened?" He said, "The other guest canceled. You're it." I said, "So I'm the guest?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "You know what to do, boy. I got it covered." I think I must have done something right, because when I went home to America on Monday, I felt very good. And on Wednesday, I had an invitation to come back the next year, and this time I was on the front bench. Oh, the fuck do you want? Excuse me for a second. Fox, take over. I gotta see what this idiot wants.
Okay, so a couple of years ago I went to this pretty cool studio called Abbey Road. It looks like I might be going back pretty soon. So I have a new video for you guys. And Kage has very kindly let me hijack a story hour for like 4 minutes and 30 seconds or something. So without further ado, I'm going to play this amazing video that Easy Wolf worked on. Let's hope it plays.
Just beyond the surface of our world lies an undiscovered country, always changing, treacherous and beautiful. When we slumber and slip through the walls we built around us, when we wash onto unfamiliar shores and step into the wild, the paths ahead can carry us toward our future or trap us in tangled destinies and lies. Close your eyes and listen. Hear the music, soft and distant like a beacon in the dark. A dream catcher guiding you through feathers and twine to where you belong. We leave one world and step into the next. We let go of our triumphs and our mistakes, and carry on. Follow that distant song that beckons us to the horizon and beyond.
Win?
Now before you ask, I did not start a howl when that bull came right up to me. Oh my god. Thank you so much. So yeah, the Dreamcatcher is going to be my next studio album. There'll be more information out about it next month. Huge thank you to Easy Wolf, to Tom, to Stuart, to everyone that was involved in the making of the video. A huge thank you to Tim Russ, who some of you might know as Star Trek Voyager's 2. Woo! The voice actor of that person. He was an amazing person. He was such a joy to work with. Thank you, Tim, if you ever see this. Thank you so much.
I would say thank you. They didn't tell me what that was going to be about. They just said that the guy over here is going to distract you. I am is Easy Wolf out there by chance? You are? Dude, stand up. Let people see you. Holy mother of crap. Wave your arms. Off to the back end. That was astonishing. One of the greatest filmmakers in our fandom, one of the greatest musicians in our fandom. Does anybody else have an erection other than me? Yeah, I know how you feel. Jeez. I'm 51 years old. This is the first time in 12 years. I'm going to treasure it while I can, okay? Where were we?
SunnyCon.
I was making noises with my face while they're getting that ready. Oh God, what am I going to do now? More noise. I'll see what I can do. I mentioned that that recent trip that I had, there was a little bit of something that happened ahead of time. You know, there are a lot of things about Uncle Kage that a bunch of you probably do not know. Little secrets I'll let you in on. Little things. First off, are you aware that I have a doctorate in chemistry, I'm a successful scientist, but I am the grandson of an American hobo. My grandfather was indeed a hobo, a tramp. He rode the rails. And another secret, when I was very, very young, there was some damage to my teeth. What you see here are actually caps on the teeth. They're made of porcelain. They don't cause me any problem. The only thing is I had to brush with toilet cleaner, but other than that, yeah. One of them broke off 2 days before I was to go to SunnyCon. And my smile suddenly had this horrible, snarly, snaggletooth gap in it. And I frantically called my dentist. And I said, I need an appointment. I need to have this fixed. You gotta help me, please, please, please. And the dentist said, well, okay, come in tomorrow morning. This is 24 hours before leaving. I went into his office and said, what's the problem? I said, I am traveling internationally. I'm going to be performing overseas, and I cannot perform with my teeth looking like hell like this. This is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. You need to fix it for me. He said, where are you going? I said, England. And he said, anyway, let's change the subject. Let's talk about the other end of the world, shall we? I also get invited to a wonderful convention that's down in Australia. It's called Convergence, and it is magnificent. I love Convergence. It is, first off, in January, which is summertime down there. They put on a good show. Pete Smith, the man in charge, he's like the little brother I never had. I'd like to beat up on him. But the thing about Australia that makes it really interesting is that everything in Australia wants you dead. Everything. I mean, the flora, the fauna. What does Australia have the rest of the world doesn't have? Box jellyfish, funnel web spiders, land sharks, drop bears. Everything in that country wants to kill you. And that's cool. See, because I come from the United States where there's gun pointed at me all the time, I'm used to it. Maybe I shouldn't make that joke over here. Stop it! Oh, good heavens, I'll just hold my wine glass up here. Anyway, I was there in Australia, and they had a beautiful, beautiful campsite that was on a green bluff overlooking the Yarra River outside of Melbourne. Now, the Yarra they make fun of the Yarra because in its past it was a polluted river, but I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was very picturesque. So, being a tourist, I wanted to go down there. I got out my what do you call it? Your handy over here, they call it, right? Had to get that thing. So, I had to get this, which is stuck on my belt and it's really ruining the story. There we go, okay. So I got the thing out and I'm like, oh boy, I'm gonna take pictures of the Yarra. And I went there, there was a long set of wooden stairs that led down to the water. Not a problem. I'm going to go down this long set of wooden stairs. And I walked down the long set of wooden stairs all the way down to this wonderful water that was oozing its way slowly to the Pacific Ocean. And I got down there, and I'm looking around and said, okay, I gotta get a picture of this, I gotta get a picture of that. Typical tourist stuff. So I got like practically filled my phone with pictures. And when I turned to go back up, the railing, the wooden railing, had a piece of paper that was attached to it with wire. And the piece of paper had written on it the words, "Warning! A 1-meter tiger snake is living under the stairs. They are deadly. It is territorial. It will stand its ground." And I said, "Oh, how nice to tell me. It would have been nicer if you put this warning at the top of the stairs before I came down here to where it is." So I went back up the stairs, kind of like this. And I saw a stick. No, just a stick. And I made it to the top of the stairs. And I reminded myself that everything in Australia wants to kill you. So I dodged a bullet. That's an American expression. I dodged that bullet that day. I had a lot of fun at conferences. Did anybody go to my first furry convention panel this year or in the past?
Yeah.
Remember how I warned you about something called con crud?
Yeah.
Even when you are careful, even when you have your hand sanitizer, which I have in my pocket here, one can still catch con crud. I was there until Monday. It was the Sunday of the convention in the morning where I felt it creeping up on me. Within 3 hours, I was running a fever. It must have been 39 degrees Celsius fever. I was feeling dizzy. I couldn't swallow. I could hardly speak. And I still had 3 panels and an auction to do that day. We have an expression in show business, the show must go on. I was sitting backstage and I was perspiring. And I thought, I don't know, how am I going to make it through this? And Pete came back and he said, "Yeah, mate, you all right?" Which in Australian is, "Excuse me, my good friend, are you feeling okay?" And I said, "Dude, everything in your country is trying to kill me, even the air." And he said, "All right, no worries, mate," which in Australian means anything you wanted to, actually. It's like a catch-all term. So I finished my panels and I finished the auction. My voice sounded like croaking a frog. I managed to get through the auction. I knew that I could barely walk, and I just told people, I'm going to my room, I'm sorry. I went to my room, it was 5 in the afternoon, 1700 for you Europeans, and I just fell into bed, and I slept around the clock, thinking that with a good night's sleep, I would defeat the Australian plague. Didn't work that way. I woke up the next morning feeling worse. And now I had to get on a trans-Pacific airplane flight that was going to take me 21 hours across the ocean to the United States. Surely sitting on the plane and being nice and still and resting will make me feel better. It didn't. I arrived in Los Angeles. My clothing looked like I had fallen into a swimming pool. I mean, it was dripping with perspiration. I knew that my face was flushed deep red, and I wasn't being very steady when I walked. I was kind of walking like this, dragging my suitcase behind me, and sometimes walking backwards even. And I went into the immigration area, and they had a giant sign that said, "If you are showing any signs of illness whatsoever, you must report to a health inspector." I said, uh-oh. See, I know what they're worried about. They're worried about Ebola. I know I don't think I have Ebola. No, I knew I didn't have Ebola. I had the Australian plague. That's not going to start a pandemic in my country. So I figure, I'll just be cool about it. I'll just walk through here, nobody will notice that I'm drenched in perspiration and bleeding from the eyeballs and walking like a zombie. The fever was so high, I thought I was going to set off one of the fire detectors. But if I play it cool, nobody will notice. Somebody noticed. An American immigration inspector came up and said, "Excuse me, sir, you don't look well. Are you feeling all right?" This is where it's useful to be a comedian, because you can think quickly. And I said, "No, I don't feel well at all. Listen, my boy, you're still young, you can learn. Don't ever try to match one drink for one drink with Australian Marines, you will lose." And I said, "Is there anything in that wastebasket? Could you kick it over here? I think I'm going to need it." He said, "Move along, sir, move along, please." So I was congratulating myself. I got through that, didn't I? Aren't I clever? And it was when I was telling this story to some friends of mine who are in the military, they said, "You do know that Australia doesn't have Marines, right?" Thank God I got the stupid one. I sometimes wonder if I'm getting too old for this. I used to be able to do like 3 hours on stage without getting tired, but I'm starting to feel worn out. When you get old, it sucks. Just remember that. You will start to feel different. Your mind will start acting differently. You'll accept the chairmanship of furry conventions. We have something, maybe in your home language you have a phrase that describes what in English we call a senior moment. When you do something that you would expect of somebody who is 98 years old and almost dead. When you get to be my age, you find yourself having the senior moments. I remember my first one. I'll take you back in time to my first senior moment. I woke up in the morning and I was going to have breakfast, typical American breakfast, cereal with milk. So I took out a bowl, and I put it on the countertop, and I poured the cereal into it. Oh, I was going to pour the cereal into it, that is, I'm sorry. And I went to get the milk out of the refrigerator. And when I opened the refrigerator, the box of cereal was in the refrigerator. I said, that's very strange. I don't remember putting that in there. And what's stranger is I don't see the milk. That doesn't happen to young people. It does suck getting old, believe me. Not only that, but you start to find that society starts to act differently. Odd, that. It's like you woke up in an alien world. For example, if I am on a bus, and I'm seated in a chair on a bus, and an elderly lady gets on the bus, I will stand up, and I will ask the elderly lady to sit in my chair. If I'm on an airplane, and someone else is struggling to put their carry-on bag in the overhead, I will stand up and say, "Las mia, please," and I will help them put the carry-on in there. And everyone around me looks at me like I'm Mother Teresa. Oh, that's amazing. I can't believe you did that. Really? I don't know. Some people have said, oh, Uncle Kage is pretentious. He just does that because he is a pretentious old American guy. I don't think so. When I was young, we used to call it manners, and it counted for something. Apparently it doesn't anymore. Or maybe it does. If a single one of you in the next few months is sitting on the tram and an elderly lady gets onto the tram and you stand up and give her your seat, I will consider my purpose fulfilled. What time are we supposed to stop? I know at the time we were supposed to start, but what time are we supposed to stop? This is called Uncle Kage's Story Hour with Fox and Moore's assistance, but I don't think we had the full hour. I'll throw some stuff on the end. How about? Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. I got some older stories I can tell. And I think I will, just for the hell of it. Because I realize that I've been doing this story hour for longer than some of you sons of bitches have been alive. So some of you were not even on this planet when I first told some of my stories. Am I bitter? Yes! Don't get old, it sucks. American comic George Bush once was... George Bush. I'm sorry, I meant George Burns.
Oh.
How could I make that mistake? Saw what I did there, didn't you? American comic George Burns once was asked when he was my age or older, "What is sex like at your age, Mr. Burns?" And he said, "It's like playing pool with a rope." Some of them got it. So you don't ever want to get old, believe me. But sometimes with the passage of time, there can come rewards. We're going to take them back in time, strangely enough, to the 1980s. Pretty sure it was 1981, if I remember correctly. My old friend Neil, who has since passed away. That'll happen too when you get old. My friend Neil and I, we were young teenagers. We used to go every single Friday with our meager earnings from our summer jobs. We would go to, first, what we called the cultural literature store. Today you call it a comic book store, but we didn't want our parents to know where we were going. So we would go to the cultural literature store and we'd buy some cultural literature in 4 colors. And then we would go a couple of doors down to a bookstore called Gene's Books, run by a gentleman named Gene. Gene's Books was a staple in the area, and boy, we must have been doing that 4 or 5 years without fail. Every Friday, we would get our cultural literature, and then we would go to Gene's Books and we would buy the larger literature, science fiction stories. The stories of Isaac Asimov, of Larry Niven, who's a jackass, but that's another story. We've been doing this for years. And one day, one of the checkout cashiers came up to me and she said, "You'd better be careful." I said, "Why, are there spiders in here?" She said, "No, Gene doesn't trust you." I said, but we come in here every single Friday. We almost always buy books from him. She said, "He thinks you're stealing from him." I said, "Well, that's ridiculous. We're his most loyal customers. Every single Friday we come in and we buy some of his books." She said, "But you come in with bags from another store." I said, okay, this is not making sense. I'm sorry, I appreciate your concern, but this is just ridiculous. We go to the cultural literature store first, and then we come here. Thank you for your concern, but I think it's not warranted. About 10 minutes later, here came Gene. This tall, gangly, ugly guy with 4 noses. He came up. I made that part up, actually, without being ugly. So he came up, he said, "Excuse me, can I look inside that bag you're carrying?" My bag from the cultural literature store. And I said, "Why would you like to look inside my bag, sir?" He said, "I would just like to see what's inside." I said, "Really? I see a lady over here who also has a bag. Are you going to look in her bag as well?" And he said, "No, just yours." I said, "Is that so? Very well. Please look inside." And he looked inside, he fished through the cultural literature, it was in there, he handed it back to me and I said, "Are you satisfied?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Thank you very much." "Neil, drop what you got, we're leaving." And we walked out. And we never again walked into that store. Because if you're going to treat your best loyal customers that way, you do not deserve their custom. In my book, which is written in American English, that makes you a motherfucker, okay? 23 years later, I got a long memory. 23 years later, I was back in my old hometown. And I was in the same shopping center, and I was with a new friend that I had met in school years ago, and she was visiting the area, and I was showing her the area. And we happened to look up, and it was still there. The cultural literature store was long gone, but it was still there. There was the sign, Gene's Books. And I said to my companion, "Say, let me tell you a story about Gene's Books." Now, where the cultural literature store used to be, there was a Starbucks, of course. And there was a gentleman sitting at the Starbucks, and he was sipping coffee and reading a newspaper. When I said that, he looked at me and said, "Oh yes, Gene's Books. That's the finest bookstore in the East Coast of the United States." And I said, "Oh, I beg to differ, sir." And he said, "Oh?" And I said, "Yes. Let me tell you a story." Now, I don't know what it is about me, but when I start to tell stories, crowds start to form.
Yeah.
So I started telling the story of what happened between my friend Neil, the loyal customer, the late friend Neil, and this horrible, dreadful man, Gene. And the crowd got bigger, and I got up on a chair, and I started telling this crowd of 100 people what a horrible, hideous, monstrous fellow this was. We would never take our custom to his store again. What the crowd did. And I jumped off the chair and I quickly grabbed Aunt Companion and said, "We have to go now, let's go, let's go, let's go, we have to leave, we have to leave." And she said, "Why are you in such a hurry?" And I said, "The guy with the coffee? That was Gene!" There's a saying in furry fandom that you don't fuck with Uncle Kage. That felt good. That felt almost masturbatory good. I liked doing that. I don't know if he's still in business, and you know what? I don't care. Probably shouldn't keep these people too much longer because I'm sure there's something that's going to be going on in this room at some point, and we want to give them time to sit up so it starts on time. But I do want to end with a small observance. Some of you perhaps did not hear the news. And if that's the case, then I'm very sorry to tell you. There is, for the first time at Eurofurence in 10 years, an empty seat in the audience. My dear father, Grandpa Kage, that many of you met, passed away, I'm sad to say. He died on the 25th of January this year. Very suddenly, it was a terrible shock to the family. And I think a lot about him. He was a man from a different time, from a different generation, but he was nonetheless a furry. And this was driven home in such a powerful way when my dear and sainted mother was packing to come to Eurofurence, and she was getting things out she wanted to bring. And she opened one of the drawers of my late father's dresser, and all of his Eurofurence badges and all of his lanyards were neatly laid in that drawer. He had kept them all these years. And she started to cry, and I had to go and comfort her. I could tell lots of stories about my father. They're sometimes hard for me. My father was a working man. He was a man that worked his entire life, and it was difficult for him when age caught up and he could no longer work. It didn't stop him, though. One of the reasons that my mother and father moved to the state of North Carolina, which is a very temperate state, from Pennsylvania, which is a very cold state, was there was a terrible snowfall, and my father, who was not well, he required oxygen to breathe, he was not very strong, looked outside at the snow, and dragging his oxygen tank, went over and started to put on his hat and coat. And my mother said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm going to go shovel the snow." And my mother said, "No, you are not. In your condition, you're not going to do that. I forbid it. You will not. Get that hat off. Sit back down." So my father angrily sat back down in his chair and he sulked. And he waited until my mother went upstairs to take her shower. She came downstairs from taking her shower, and saw my father outside with his oxygen tank in one hand, the snow shovel in the other hand, shoveling the snow. That's when they decided they had to move to a warmer climate. But that's the kind of man my father was. As I said, he was a working man. After he died, there were some duties that a son has to perform. I've always maintained that, a son does have these responsibilities to his father. One of them is a legal responsibility that the deceased person has to be formally identified. Somebody has to go and say, yes, this was my father. I couldn't place that responsibility on my mother or my sisters. That's something a son has to do. So I went to the funeral home and I introduced myself. And they very quietly took me to a little room off to the side. And they opened the doors and there was a coffin there. And I saw my father lying in the coffin, very still, motionless. He did look very much like he was asleep. And I took a deep breath. And I walked up to the coffin. And I braced myself. And I looked down at him. And I said, "Selfie!" Oh, I didn't. Of course I didn't. That's a lie. But it made you laugh, didn't it? And that's okay. My father was at his happiest when the people around him were happy. He liked to hear other people laugh, and he did his best through his life to make that happen. And of the very many gifts that my father granted to me, that's the one that I cherish the most. And I thank you for allowing me to share it with you tonight. Empty and oh. My time on the stage is done, and I once again thank you. In a very short time, there is going to be an improvisational workshop that is going to be given by a very, very old friend of mine, the artist formerly known as Prismo. He has asked me to join him. And I said, no, I'm sorry, I can't. But I was sober when I said that, and I'm not sober now, so I'm going to go join him with that. So if you want to go to the improv panel, I recommend it. And after that, if you want to go to the charity booth in the lobby, just go. You'll see. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen.